Okay, I think we'll make a start. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's PGA Live webinar for golf club managers and officials. PGA Live is a new members service that we've recently deployed, allowing us to provide additional support and information to our members. It also allows the senior team of the PGA to speak directly to our members and allow them to ask questions to us. Today's webinar is the first webinar we've ever made available to non-PGA members and is the extension of our support for the industry as we make our way through this crisis. Over the last 6 weeks, as the crisis has developed, the PGA has invested significant time and resources into helping both our members and the wider golf industry. Rob Maxfield, Chief Executive of the PGA, who's on the call, will be providing more information on this shortly. It's that wider support to the golf industry that's led to today's webinar. The majority of managers who are on this call today are on this call because we've had some form of interaction with you through the COVID-19 helpline and support resources. Today's webinar is exclusively on the phased reopening of golf and the guidelines that have been circulated to you through this week. Just before we begin, just to introduce myself, my name is Richard Barker, Executive Director of Business Development. My role at the PGA sits over our media, communications and commercial departments. On the call today, I'm joined by Robert Maxfield, Chief Executive of the PGA, Tristan Crew, Executive Director of Member Services, and finally, Craig Tracey, MP for North Warwickshire and Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Golf. Before I hand over to Rob, I just want to say anyone that has an unstable or a challenging internet connection, we are recording today's session and we will email it to all attendees on Monday morning. So welcome everybody, and I'd like to hand over to Rob.
Hi everybody, and thank you, a massive thank you for joining us. We did a call with PGA members yesterday. We got about 700 on that call. And I'm really pleased to say we've topped that today. We're up to about 800. So thank you very much for attending today. First and foremost, I hope your families are well. I hope you're safe and well. I think during these difficult times, I think it brings everything into perspective, and that is probably the most important thing to us all at this moment in time. We do want to talk about the opening of golf today, and we're joined by Craig Tracey, MP, who's going to give us an update, and I'll talk about some of the work that the PGA have been doing alongside the many bodies in golf. But just before I do that, I just want to maybe give you a quick update on what we've been doing for our PGA members. As an organisation, I won't give you all of the history of the PGA, but as an organisation, we were formed in 1901. We now have 8,000 members. Those members work now in 80 countries around the world and carry out a multitude of jobs in the industry, around about 70 now. So what we do is we as an organisation are absolutely 100% focused on our membership. We have a vision to improve the personal and professional lives of members, and that is everything that we are as an organisation. The reason that we exist is absolutely for our members. When this crisis broke, in fact just before this crisis, we recognised that this is going to have a big impact not just on our members but on the wider industry. And we were quick to move. As a senior staff, we'd met every day for 6 weeks. We continue to meet. The lead agenda point on our discussions is membership, and we feel we've done a good job with the members. We've got some incredible feedback from our members in supporting them. And I just want to very quickly update you on some of the work that we've been doing. We felt it was really important. There's a lot of information floating around about COVID-19, and we felt it was really important that all of the information that we're putting together was placed in one place. So we very quickly created a hub on pga.info, our website. That hub now has more than 100 pieces of information. Many organisations are trying to support members and trying to support clubs. We believe we've got the most comprehensive record and library of information, and as I say, there's about 100 articles on there that is all accessible, by the way, to you, golf clubs. We've been very proactive, as we've all had to do during this crisis. We've had to be nimble. We've proactively dealt with a number of difficult situations that our members have found themselves in, both contractually and otherwise. As I'm sure many of you would appreciate, lots of our members run their own businesses. They are struggling, some of them, in terms of trying to generate government support, and for that reason we've tried to act very nimbly with that. We've had our lawyers and various financial advisors supporting us through this whole process, and we've very quickly tried to get as much information in a timely manner to our members as we can. Government support's been very interesting. We have interpreted that government support and what it means to our members. Our members, as you can quite imagine, certainly the club pros would have set their businesses up in different ways, and in interpreting that government support and understanding exactly how members can access that support and what support they can access has been vital to us, and that's something that has been incredibly well received by our members. It's something we're working on at the moment in relation to golf clubs. We're not quite there with it yet. We're trying to understand exactly what different scenarios golf clubs find themselves in, and how businesses are set up so that we can interpret that for you as well. So that will hopefully be coming out in the next few days or week or so. We also, again, very early on in the crisis, we decided to set up a helpline. That helpline is manned by our 7 regional offices. The information on the helpline and the numbers is contained within our website. But rather than wait for members to call, we felt that it was very, very important, given the impact that this is having on our members, that we should actually call all of our members. And I'm really pleased and very, very proud to say that we've called 99% of our members as we speak on this call. And that's 8,000 people. And I'm sure you would appreciate calling 8,000 people is no mean feat. We very, very early on, and there are organisations that have furloughed staff. We've now up to about 35 of our staff out of our 140 staff that are furloughed. We've purposely kept most of our staff on and haven't furloughed them because we absolutely recognise that we need to be here for our members during this very, very difficult time. As Rich said, club support, we absolutely recognise that our members absolutely most of the time work in golf clubs, and having healthy golf clubs and a healthy industry is absolutely critical. So that's the reason that we're here today. We genuinely want to support you. We want to be here for you. You'll hear a lot today about the stuff that we want to do for you and are able to do for you, but we're absolutely here to help, and we would urge you, and it won't be the first time I'm going to say this, but please pick up the phone to us, get on the helplines and pick up the phone, and we are absolutely here to help you. Okay, we're going to talk about opening, but one very, very important message is at this moment in time to you is you must not open, you must remain closed. And the reason I say that is we're going to hand over to Craig in a little while, who's going to talk about some of the work that we've been doing to coordinate an opening plan. But it's very, very, very important to remain closed at the moment. We do not want golf to be seen as irresponsible. I think most of us that have watched the media and the news and the press have seen people being criticised for being irresponsible. We do not want our game to be seen as irresponsible. We're in a very, very fortunate position at this moment in time where government haven't officially closed golf. The thing that is stopping us opening is the travel restriction. And we have the potential of being one of the first sports to open, but we have to remain patient. That's a very, very important message. We have got a unified plan. The documents that we're going to talk through in a few minutes are being signed off by up to about 15 bodies, ourselves, the Greenkeepers, the UK Golf Federation, the golf industry, the home unions. It's been no mean feat. I'm sure you can imagine. We've gone through weeks of debate and discussion as to what should be contained in these documents. And I will run through the detail of those documents, but I can rest assured it's been working on your behalf, the bodies have come together, and it's been a massive, massive step forward to get that work done. We've also connected in with government, and that's one of the reasons that Craig is on this call today. Craig has been a massive supporter of golf. He's chair of the all-party parliamentary golf group. He's worked with the PGA and many other bodies for quite a number of years now, and in particular over this past month he has been an absolute star and a real friend to golf, and I can't overemphasize the work that Craig's done. Without Craig we would certainly not be in the position we are today. And Craig said to me last week, for the first time ever, golf is talked about in the corridors of Parliament, and I cannot underestimate to you how important that is. It's critical, not just critical for getting out of this crisis, but also critical going forward as well. So I'm going to pass over to Craig now, who's going to give us an update on the work he's been doing during this crisis. Over to you, Craig.
I nearly forgot to put my microphone on. It could have been a short conversation there. But thank you, Rob, and thank you for that introduction. As has been said, I'm MP for North Warwickshire, done that since 2015. And I also chair the all-party parliamentary group on golf, which was an organisation that was founded in 2016 and something I've chaired since 2017. And the purpose of the group is very, very simple. It's to support the sport of golf in Parliament. But what we wanted to make sure that was done, so it just wasn't a group of MPs sat talking around the table about golf, was that we wanted to make sure from day one that the industry was fully represented. And so we work with a number of stakeholders to ensure that that happens, so the whole spectrum of the game is represented. And I'm delighted that the PGA have been a key member since the very, very start of this group and really helped to shape how, as a group, we've functioned over the last 4 or 5 years. So as a result of that, we do have a very, very strong relationship with them. And we've looked at various topics over the last few years, you know, from things like female participation, health benefits of sport, and how you increase participation in general. So there's a lot of work going on an ongoing basis. But obviously, as we sit here now, the current challenge for all of us is COVID-19. And from my perspective, you know, aside from being a huge golf fan myself, my constituency is also home to both the PGA and the Belfry Golf Centre. So it's a key industry for my local area, as well as, you know, just being a sport that I enjoy. So I personally really value the relationship that I built up with Rob and the team as a constituency MP over the last few years. And, you know, I genuinely say it's never been more valuable than it is right now at this moment. So just really to give you a background over the last few weeks, obviously we are in unprecedented times and the media focus is very much on the here and now, understandably. They're looking at this day by day. But firstly, I wanted to reassure you that we as an all-party group have been working on a plan. And since before the lockdown even started, Rob and I were in conversation. We were also discussing with the R&A 3 real impacts on golf. Firstly, what those initial impacts would be if and when a lockdown was announced. Secondly, which was quite an important one, was actually then how golf could be part of the solution, not just take a step back. And some of the things that we were discussing with government was, you know, whether courses could be used for exercise, whether we could utilise some of the land for sites, for storage, for things like that. And that was really, really well received, that we weren't just going in with asks all the time. It was actually a proactive attempt to really help in a time of need. And then the third point, which is really relevant to today's conversation, is how that safe return could be made. And I think the beauty of the APPG was that we could quickly pull together the key industry bodies to start those conversations. And I think it's happened in a way that certainly in all the years I've been involved with golf, I've never seen everybody come together. And I think as a result of that, it puts the sport in a very, very strong footing to be at the forefront of the relaxation measures as and when they do come into force. And again, I would like to thank Rob and the PGA team for their leadership on this, because from day one, they really stressed that they wanted a collaborative approach to this. And when you're working with diverse organisations like the R&A, we've got Ping involved, we've got British Golf Industry Foundation, UK Golf Federation, Sagenta, IMG, you know, all sorts of different organisations. Pulling those together was no mean feat, and you know, the leadership that was shown by the R&A the PGA was key to that. So moving forward, obviously, golf isn't able to reopen yet, and the key barrier to that is really the restriction around driving to exercise. There's been a lot of speculation, though, in the press over the last few days now about the potential of golf to be reintroduced and be one of the first to be reintroduced. And I think, you know, you will probably have seen now the document that the R&A have put forward that was worked in conjunction with the APPG members to really put forward that case. But I don't think that press speculation, and Rob mentioned the fact that government is talking about this, that's not a coincidence. That's been done because we've been able, as an APPG, to filter in the information that we've had through the various conversations, through the online meetings that we've held, and get those into the departments over the last few weeks. And I think what was really appreciated by them was that the industry has been seen to be working as one and is working to deliver both a workable and a safe set of guidelines. And I think those points are critical. And talking to some of the ministers just yesterday, for example, football is in a completely different position because you've got loads of different bodies pulling in different directions. So I think, you know, the reason we are in such a good place is because of the collaborative working that has happened so far. And I can't stress how important it is that this collaborative approach continues and that we all do keep working together with the same plan. We're continuing to make the case to the government weekly, if not daily. And as I say, you know, with the document that was done yesterday, there's some really fantastic work being done that I think, you know, everybody can get behind and get on board with. But I think I need to reiterate the point that it is so important that the courses do remain closed up until that point that the official government go-ahead is actually given. And if individual courses, if small pockets jump the gun, we really do risk public backlash, and that will be felt across the entire industry. And it hinders the opportunity for a more widespread opening. And my main concern is that it then does lasting reputational damage for short-term gain. And I think, you know, we really shouldn't underestimate the public feeling. I think it's quite easy when you're involved in a certain sector or industry that you get within the bubble and you think that everybody feels the same as you do, has the same passion, but actually the government guidance has been very, very successful, probably more successful than we ever dreamed it would be. And I think part of that is the emotional tie to the NHS that's been linked, but it means that the public are still very nervous, very frightened. So we all really need to work together on this and show a united front on the way forward. So really, I just wanted to finish with it. You know, I know this is your livelihood. You all work incredibly hard for the game of golf. You all do a lot, and you all, you know, are leaders within your local clubs and businesses. And I really do appreciate how tough it is for people at the moment. Many of you will be suffering, will be having challenges that you've never faced before. But it is so important that that patience that you've shown so far continues, and the hard work that you've done in following the guidelines so far really does continue. We've got to look big picture on this, and with your support, on top of, you know, the other organisations we work with, and the collaborative approach that I really do keep on stressing, I believe that we come out of this not just as it was, but in a really, really strong and you know, in a really great position. But as I say, to do that, we need to work together. But I think, you know, just my final point would be your association with the PGA. Basically, you couldn't be in better hands. You couldn't have a better partner to ensure that your collective voices are being heard, both across the wider industry through the APPG, but also into government. So thank you for listening. And as I say, I wish you every success in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Some wise words from Craig, and I know you'll go away and you'll listen to what Craig said, and I think it's very, very important. And I think we're all very, very fortunate in the game to have such a friend in golf as Craig. And you know, I can't underestimate and can't overstress the importance of having somebody in Poland that is absolutely banging golf's drum. So thank you very, very much, Craig, from a personal point of view and also on behalf of the industry. I want to talk about a couple of documents that you've recently been sent over the last couple of days. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at them. The two documents relate to An operational guide for professional staff. And when I talk about professional staff, I don't just talk about PGA professionals, I talk about managers and greenkeepers. That document was put together with the greenkeepers, the managers, golf industry, the UK Golf Federation. And it's a document that's been put together to give some guidance on what we need to do to get ready to open golf. There's another document that's been released over the last couple of days that we've also got to you, and that's a document relating to playing the game. It has the RNA's logo on the top of it. It is a document that the PGA and all the other organisations have signed up to. And those I would urge you to, those are the two documents that you ought to be looking at. Those are the two documents that are going to give you the clues as to what we're going to need to do to actually open golf up. Those two documents have been submitted to UK government. Craig was instrumental in that. They've gone to the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport. They went on behalf of the entire industry with a covering document that talked about the importance of golf, not just to us, but also to the industry. We employ about 74,000 people. It's incredibly valuable. It helps with health and goodness knows how many things, community. So it was a document that went in a couple of days ago, and we've not had a response from that yet. But as Craig said, it's been the work that we've been done has been incredibly well received in Parliament. I'm talking about UK Parliament here, but the important thing to point out here, we might have a few people on the call that are maybe from Ireland, from the Republic of Ireland. The reference to Ireland and the various changes or various different rules in Ireland have been taken into account here, and we're working very, very closely with Golf Ireland. I was on a call a couple of days with Mark Kennelly, Chief Executive of Golf Ireland, and Mark is absolutely on the same page with us as this. The only difference is that he is talking direct to government in Ireland, and maybe the guidelines are going to differ slightly. And they may be talking about maybe golf in Ireland maybe only open to member clubs initially, where we're thinking it would open to the wider public. So there are going to be some nuances, but the documents are absolutely signed up in terms of GB&I as documents that we should be referring to. The documents are guides. I think that's really, really important to recognise at this moment in time. I'll talk through the bits that are covered in the documents, but the documents are very, very much a guide. We don't know when Boris Johnson stands on a podium next week, hopefully, and tells us about some of the lockdown changes, exactly what that's going to mean for golf. So these documents will change. These documents will have to be adapted. And it's our best guess at this moment in time as to what you need to do to start thinking about opening up. So if you haven't done already, please dust those documents off, have a look at them, and start to plan yourself. And I'm going to talk about what I think that actually means to the facilities themselves, in particular the golf clubs. The operational document covers a number of areas. It covers golf course, it covers range, pro services, opening shops, golf fitting, golf coaching and clubhouse. So there are various examples there of, as I would describe it, standard operating procedures that golf clubs need to start to consider to get open. The RNA document covers playing the game, the things around making sure rakes aren't out on the golf course, making sure ball washers are in it, covers that type of thing. We tried not to be too prescriptive on both of the documents, and when you read the RNA document as an example, it doesn't talk about playing golf in 2 balls, it just talks about playing golf safely. We've tried to be not to be too prescriptive on this, recognising that there needs to be some flexibility, because we feel that's really, really important. And as I say, these documents might just change slightly, but at least it gives you a really, really good guide. Okay, what do you do from now? There's one word that is absolutely critical. You need to plan. You absolutely need to plan. You need to start thinking about getting your facilities ready to open. Don't wait until Boris Johnson stands on that podium to start thinking about it. You have to do it now. I've, over the last few weeks, spoken to a number of people who have come out of this lockdown, PGA professionals working overseas. All of them state one thing: you're going to be busy. You are absolutely going to be busy. We had on the call yesterday a guy called Dave Shepherd, a PGA member. Dave, UK professional, went over and worked in a number of countries, went to work in Portugal. In the last 4 years, he's been working at Denmark. He's chief executive of the Scandinavian Club. And Dave talked yesterday about, they've been open for about 28 days, and he talked about some of the challenges being faced. But one thing is absolutely clear from Dave, and that rang out in our ears yesterday: he is very, very, very busy. They have issues around being so busy that greenkeeping staff can't work. He talked a lot about rogue members yesterday, members wanting to put pressure. Obviously, there are guidelines in place at his facility, but members, golf club members, are wanting to put pressure to relax those guidelines. Members were wanting to put pressure on his facility to run competitions. He's not buckled on it. He's kept the guidelines in place. In 28 days, after 28 days, they're still not running competitions. They're having to open the golf course a little bit later than normal. They're having to close it a little bit early because the greenkeeping staff, to operate safely, are going to have some time to do that. 2 days ago, I was speaking to Gavin Kirkman, who's my equivalent in the PGA of Australia. Australia, I think, is broken up into I think it's 4 districts or four states. In one of those states, golf never closed. In 3 of them, it did, but it's now come out of the lockdown. And again, the message from Gavin is, expect it to be busy when you open, Rob. It's absolutely rammed. They've never ever been busier. Gavin talked about the fact that people were coming out that hadn't played golf for years. They can't watch sport on the TV. They can't get access to many other sports, so they're turning to golf. And I think this is one of the things I'm really, really hoping comes out of this, that maybe it gives golf a little bit of a boost. So being busy is really important. China's another example. We've got a number of members working in China. They came out of the lockdown from a golf perspective 2 or 3 weeks ago, and again, incredibly busy. Okay, what do you need to do? First and foremost, look at those documents. There are clues in those documents. The one thing I would say about the documents is it's impossible, and this is why it's taken so long to get everybody to agree the documents. It's impossible to draw documents that apply to every single facility. Absolutely impossible. But we've tried to be as general as we can. The clues are in there. Most of the stuff, I have to say, is common sense. Most of it refers to public distancing, social distancing, sorry. Most of it is common sense, but it will absolutely give you the clues. How do you go about developing a plan? Well, on this call, we will have some PGA members on the call, we'll have some managers on the call, we'll have some captains of golf clubs on the call, we'll have some chairmen of golf clubs on the call, and various committee members. The one thing I would urge you to do is get together to develop the plan. It's absolutely critical. Every single golf club, traditional golf club, is made up of a team of people. Greenkeeper, pro, manager, chairman, secretary, whatever it is. You have to get together to develop the plan. We've seen over the past 6 weeks some absolutely fantastic examples where people have worked as a team. At the same time, we've seen some horror stories, and there are some absolute horror stories. Great examples where people have come together. It's meant that members of the golf club have been communicated to properly. The pro is working with the manager. They're doing quizzes. They're doing competitions on taking pictures of bunkers and where a bunker's on the course. And they've really, really kept engaged with the members of their club. Some fantastic examples. There are also some terrible examples. And I would urge you, if you're one of these people, that you really sit down and think about this. But we've had examples in the past few weeks talking to PGA members where, believe it or not, PGA members haven't even been contacted or spoken to by their manager or their chairman. And I put my head in my hands sometimes to think, why aren't these individuals talking to each other? You're such small teams quite often in golf clubs, and I would urge you to work very, very, very closely together. It's absolutely critical. I'm certainly not here to get on a soapbox and bang the drum in terms of PGA professionals, because as an industry, I've talked about coming together, and we're trying to offer you the clubs as much support as we are to our PGA professionals. But one thing I would say to you, and again, talking to Dave Shepherd, who's a PGA professional and chief executive of the Scandinavian Club, and Gavin Kirkman, chief executive of PGA of Australia, the last couple of days, the PGA professionals in the traditional clubs are absolutely going to be front and centre here. There is very, very little chance, I would suggest, that golf clubhouses are going to open. There's a damn good chance that the pro shops are going to open. The PGA Pro is absolutely going to be front and centre. So if you've not picked the phone up to your pro in the last few weeks as a manager or a chairman or a captain, for goodness sake, do it. It's absolutely critical that you get you, the club, the greenkeeper, the pro, absolutely on the same page. It's really, really, really important. Another thing I'd point out is safety of staff. I think there's one of the things that this horrible virus has brought home to everybody is it can cut anybody down. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're young, old, fit, unhealthy, it can cut you down. And we've seen those terrible, terrible numbers swell every single week. It's absolutely critical that you think about the safety of your members, and more important than that, everybody on this call is in some type of leadership position in their facility. You have to think about the people either that you engage, if that's a PGA professional on a retainer, or a manager that you employ, or a staff member that you employ. It's really, really important that you look after the safety of your staff and your members. As I said earlier, Dave Shepherd said that his members went rogue and they were absolutely pushing very, very hard to change and lift restrictions. You can't afford for that to happen, I can promise you. This is life-threatening, this. It's really important that you do that. Just before I hand over to Rich, we have got some questions that we're going to go through, but I just want to stress to you that whilst we are absolutely an organisation that services 8,000 PGA professionals, we want to become an organisation that supports you. We have a PGA helpline, as I said earlier. That helpline is open to you. Please, please, please pick the phone up. We've got a team of support staff, and those staff have not been furloughed, as I said. They are here to help. They are here to support. Healthy clubs mean healthy PGA professionals and vice versa. We're in it together. We have to come out of it together, and working together is going to be very, very critical. So please, please, please do not hesitate to pick the phone up to us. We're absolutely here to help you. Thanks very much, and I'm now going to pass over to Rich. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rob. Just before we go to questions that have been pre-submitted through the email call to action on the registration process, there's been quite a few questions come through around the documents that are in circulation. I just wanted to make what I think is quite an important point, just to reconfirm what Rob was saying, is there are 2 documents that have been submitted to government. Those 2 documents are the ones that we've sent to our golf manager database this morning and our PGA professional members this week. They are on the resource hub. They are the only 2 documents that have actually been sent to government on behalf of the industry. So my advice, I think the PGA's advice, would be to use those as the single point of reference. I just thought I'd make that point before we move to these questions. We've had a significant number of questions submitted in the advance sort of run-up of this webinar, so thank you to everyone who's taken the time to submit your questions. In order to provide as much value for this call, I've tried to sort of group them and to ask fairly broad questions. There's obviously a lot of very, very significant and personal situations around some of the questions. We'll try to come back to you on those individually after this call if they're not addressed. I think on that point, you know, these guidelines are very broad. They've been presented that way for a reason. There's obviously a significant number of variables for individual golf club managers, professionals to consider within their own facilities based on the infrastructure and the setup of those properties. Potentially we could see changes in government guidelines in the not too distant future that allow us to start thinking about opening golf. Rob, can we talk a little bit more about what everyone on this call should do today? What should everyone be doing now?
I think there's a sense of urgency. I think if you haven't done already, within the next 24 hours, get the key people together in your facility. You know who they are, the greenkeeper, the pro, the manager. Get everybody together and work out a plan. Because if you don't work out a plan, you're going to be in trouble, I can absolutely promise you. It's absolutely critical. So talking, working out the plan together, being very, very clear what you're doing, what your policies are, is absolutely, I can't stress it enough, is going to be absolutely critical. Because you're going to be expected by your members, and it will be the members that drive you to do this, you're going to be expected to be ready when golf opens. Your golf courses might not be in the best condition. You're only on essential maintenance. Communicating with your members is going to be important. If you haven't done already, start that communication process. You need to bring your members along with this. Again, we've seen some fantastic examples where people are talking to members of their golf club. Equally, I've heard again some horror stories where no communication has gone out whatsoever to the golf clubs. Communication with the members, get a plan together, communicate it with your members, and I can guarantee you everything will be fine. And then what I would then urge you to do is keep on top of the changing situation. And we're going to keep on updating you on as this thing moves and changes. At some point in time, clubhouses will open, bars will open, restaurants will open. But it isn't going to happen straight away. So please keep on top of that. And we'll keep you fed with as much information as we can. So plan and communicate, 2 critical things.
Thanks, Rob. We've had a number of managers ask questions around coaching on the basis of obviously supporting their PGA professionals and their aspirations to get back to coaching as soon as possible. Do the PGA think that coaching can start when these restrictions are lifted, and what advice will we give on sort of managing that process?
Yeah, we see no reason why coaching can't take place safely. The big thing is social distancing. That is, I think we all realise that social distancing is going to be key here with everything that we do. We don't see any reason why coaching can't start, lessons can't start. A lot of this is going to depend, and I'll keep on saying it is going to depend on what the government say. We believe there's an opportunity for PGA professionals to coach responsibly. Social distancing is critical. PGA professionals amongst you in the audience will understand that you use quite often alignment sticks when you're trying to align people to play the game. You know, quite often when you're coaching somebody who's a PGA professional, maybe you touch them. There's no need to touch an individual. You can use an alignment stick. You can stay 2 meters away from somebody and still try and steer them into doing what you want them to do. It was interesting yesterday. We had some comments back from various people that painting on ranges and practice range lines so that we can demonstrate social distancing. We all go shopping. We all see the lines that are painted on the floors of supermarkets. Start thinking about doing that on driving ranges. There's no reason why you can't. But look at the guidelines. There are some clues in those guidelines, but absolutely we don't see any reason why lessons can't start and coaching can't start.
Great, thanks, Rob. We had a large number of questions around facility management and the different facilities at a golf club opening and when it's the right time to do so. Obviously, depending on the facilities that each club have, you know, driving ranges, putting greens, food outlets, etc. What advice would we give about the different facilities and when they should open?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, actually. And again, a point that came up yesterday, in particular around ranges with PGA members. We don't see any reason why ranges can't open. As I say, clubhouses were probably one of the last things to open. Again, look at the document. Again, there's some clues in there. It was interesting yesterday. If you take ranges, I've had a couple of calls with a couple of PGA professionals recently where they've talked about they work in an older fashioned range, which if you can imagine behind the back of the bays, it hasn't got a huge distance behind the back of the bays. So they're concerned that, you know, people walking down the back of the bays, it's going to be a problem because they're not social distancing. Well, absolutely, it is going to be a problem. But maybe what they can do is, and it's interesting, I was talking to our HR director yesterday, and we were talking about the potential of opening up the PGA offices. Like many offices, there are corridors. Our corridors are about 1.2 meters wide, we think. It will not be possible to pass somebody in a corridor and still demonstrate social distancing. So one of the things that we're going to put into place in the PGA's offices, we're going to put one-way systems in place in corridors. You know, one of the things I suggested yesterday was on driving ranges, why don't you do one-way position? It was interesting. A member picked the phone up to me straight after the call and said he'd not thought about that. It's great. He's going to break a fence open at the top of his range and allow people to enter that way. Again, be creative in what you're doing. I also think that same thing is going to apply to clubhouses as well. When we open, I think social distancing, I think it's pretty clear to us all, is going to be in place for quite some time. You know, maybe you've got to think about those one-way corridors at the same time. But again, just be practical and think about how this applies. Putting greens, you'll see on the original documents that we talked about from the RNA, putting greens were going to be closed. We felt that we were able to open putting greens and social distancing. You'll see in the document that it does talk about referencing putting greens, but we don't see any reason, again, why putting greens can't remain open. Thanks, Rich.
Great stuff. Tristan, coming to you now with a question on members' competitions, if we can. What are the thoughts and advice on staging competitions again for members of golf clubs?
Thanks, Rich, and good afternoon, everyone, and thanks again for joining us. Yeah, competitions. Rob touched on this earlier in and around competitions and competition golf. I think it's fair to say there's big differences between social golf and what we would know as competition golf. And if you look at PGA tournaments specifically, I think it's going to be a number of weeks before we get into sort of competitive golf with our PGA tournament schedule. So it's very much one step at a time. You know, when we predict, if we look at what's happened with other countries, we predict that the social golf under the social distancing rules and the infection control rules will come into play first. And then as and at a later stage perhaps start to adapt into competition golf. As Rob says, in Denmark they haven't started competition golf even a month after opening, so I can't see that that will be a priority. It'd be more about getting individuals safely on the golf course. There's no doubt that if we look at what's happened over the other countries that have opened, and the feedback that we've had from it, the teams and the management teams of golf facilities come under exceeding pressure to relax the restrictions that are there. And I think the take-home message, I'm sure you've all gathered by now, is no, stick to your plans. Don't cede to this pressure. Make sure you plan everything appropriately and as you open things up in a responsible way.
Great, thanks, Tristan. There's been a couple of questions come through around how much notice golf might be given and how we would address that. Just a few statements come in, and I'm not going to necessarily pose a question here, but I know that from the PGA's perspective, we've already started to consider what that plan might be. We have no idea how much notice we're going to be given. We don't know when it might be. But we're already starting to think about what those plans might be, what support we can provide, and we'll be sure to communicate those out to both our members and the Golf Club Managers database that we have as it progresses. Tristan, just coming back to you, as golf starts to reopen, golf clubs are going to have a number of staff members who are very much on the front line in delivering the service at the club. What PPE considerations should be made, and how can the PGA help with that?
Yeah, thanks again, Rich. Yeah, I think we all understand that and Rob said earlier as well about how we need to make sure that the staff are adequately protected. We've heard all sorts of things in the press about the unavailability of PPE. I think that really much relates to sort of hospital grade PPE. There are a number of companies out there that can provide the basic stuff, which from that I mean face masks, hand sanitizer, hand wash, screens, those types of things. And you may indeed have already sourced a number of those from a number of those companies. If you haven't and you need some support with it, we've managed to source a company which has all of the above that I've just mentioned. And we'll be placing those details onto the website, onto the resource hub, so that you can access through that should you be unable to find it from your own sources. Great,
thanks, Tristan. Rob, coming back to you, if I may, a number of managers have asked about basically they've had conversations with their PGA member, and the PGA member informing them about our changes in membership structure and expanding membership. We've been asked to provide a bit more information about that on a couple of the comments on the call and questions pre-submitted. Rob, could you provide some more information on that, please?
Yeah, I can. Thanks, Rich. It's something that we've been talking about now for just over a year. We've not gone public on this yet, but I'll give you some information, maybe just in advance of us going public. As I said earlier, we've got about 8,000 members. They work in 80 countries around the world. They do about 70 different jobs. We'll have members on this call who are managers of facilities, hence the reason why they've dialed onto this call. We're already providing a lot of support to those individuals in those areas of their businesses, and we're very, very much looking at stepping that up in the coming weeks, months, and years. I think one of the things that has absolutely screamed at us loud and clear throughout this crisis, and I think it backs up where we're going with the membership, is the need to absolutely unite, in particular the workforce of the industry and the people that either work on a voluntary basis or a professional basis. And we feel we're well placed to be able to do that. We are looking at an extended membership. Currently, anybody to become a member of the PGA has to be a professional golfer. They have to go through a 3-year foundation degree. As probably many of you know, many of you might have assistants in clubs that are training to become PGA professionals. But in the coming weeks and in the coming months, we are going to be announcing an extension to that membership. And in essence, we are going to become an organisation of professionals in the business of golf as opposed to golf professionals, and the two are different. That's not to say we're not absolutely going to see. Absolutely, the main focus of our organisation is going to be focusing on our members, but we believe there's an opportunity to bring in the rest of the workforce into membership, and that membership will in essence include anybody that works in either a voluntary position in the industry or a professional position. We've looked at different membership categories. We have the PGA professional category. We're also going to introduce a coaching category. We're going to introduce a golf club management category. And we're also going to introduce a business golf management division category. The business golf management division category would also be open to the wider industry, so it wouldn't just include golf clubs. The golf club manager category does what it says on the tin, I guess, which would apply to golf club managers. In addition to that, we're going to introduce an affiliate program as well. We recognise there are lots of people that contribute massively to our game. They might volunteer from a club perspective. They might be the chairman of the golf club. They might be the captain of the golf club. So the membership structure that we're going to unveil in the coming months will mean that every single person on this call, irrespective if you're a PGA member or not, you will be able to become connected formally with the PGA and access all of our services. We've got about 140 staff. We are well resourced in terms of being able to deliver that service. So that is something that you'll hear about in the coming months. But we're just at this moment in time working through exactly what the services are going to be, exactly what the price is going to be, exactly when we come out to you and invite you in. But all I would say in the meantime is we're here to support and help. We're trying at this moment in time to reach out and support the industry as much as we can just to get through this crisis. But this will be formalised in the coming months, and we'll be in touch with you at the appropriate time.
Great, thanks, Rob. I think it's very clear from the guidance and some of the questions that are coming through that golf clubs and their professional staff are going to need to spend time considering these plans to create their own operational plans based on their specific circumstances. This process, I think, is bound to throw up questions, concerns, issues. Tristan, I wonder if I could come back to you just to provide a little bit more information around the helpline and the service and support that the PGA can provide through this process.
Yeah, Rob mentioned earlier the first part of the helpline that we introduced in the early part of the COVID crisis, which was phoning up our members. Within that, we also phoned over 1,000 golf clubs to offer support and guide toward our resources. The second tier of this and that helpline is that those individuals, I include members and golf clubs in this, that needed extra support or perhaps some guidance in and around some of the government financial advice or furloughing or contracts, whatever else it might be, is that we created a support team of individuals that those individuals can contact for some specific advice. Now, I think it's fair to say in the early part we didn't have all the answers, but we've now built a very strong library of support, which we're now able to refer to. So that service still remains open, and it's open to all golf clubs and all golf clubs certainly on this call and the officials from them. If you do feel you need that extra support, you can find the numbers again on the resource hub for the support team. They stand by ready to support you wherever they can to help you through the difficult situations. And I will guarantee that if they don't know the answer, they'll do everything they can to help find it.
Great, thanks very much, Tristan. Appreciate that. We are running out of time. Rob, I thought I might come back to you just to give your final few words on behalf of the PGA.
Yeah, 3 points really. Be patient, don't open, make sure you plan, and for goodness sake, pick up the phone if you need anything. I can see on the top right-hand side of my screen questions popping up all the time. I can only see the first few words of the question, but obviously there are questions coming in. We can't answer every single question. We've got a team of people manning the helplines. Please pick the phone up if you need anything at all. We are absolutely here to support and help you. And thank you very, very much to everybody for attending. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Just to conclude, just want to extend my thanks to everyone for joining us for today's webinar. For those that have submitted questions, we will take some of them offline and try to come back to you directly. Just to remind everyone, we are recording this webinar and we will email it to you all on Monday, early part of next week. As the situation around this crisis continues to develop, and hopefully with the return of golf not being too far away, we will set up future webinars for golf club managers and officials specifically. We will be communicating those to you via our golf club manager database. The majority of the people on this call are not members of the PGA, and therefore we do need you to submit your details to us. I will provide that link and that ability to do that on the email to you all on Monday, so that we can keep the communication up with you and you can continue to be notified of these webinars as we progress. Thank you to everyone. Please stay safe, look after yourselves and all of your families. Thank you.